watch the sun go down over the same old town, like so many times before. We look at the same old stars, battle the same old wars, like so many times before. And I know that we're not perfect, but I'm gonna miss all that we had. Yeah, I know that we're not perfect, but I need this night for the last time. Stay, stay. No, you're gone in the morning, but I'll be okay if you stay. Stay. No, you're gone in the morning, but I'll be okay if you stay. If you stay. No, you're gone in the morning, but I'll be okay. We were never meant to last, but all the fun times we had, I'll never forget. We will always share a bond, no matter what, 'cause you have a piece of my heart. And I know that we're not perfect, but I'm gonna miss all that we had. Yeah, I know that we're not perfect, but I need this night for the last time. Stay, stay. No, you're gone in the morning, but I'll be okay if you stay. Stay. No, you're gone in the morning, but I'll be okay if you stay. Stay. If you stay. If you stay. If you stay. No, you're gone in the morning, but I'll be okay. Till the sun goes up, yeah, for a little moment. Just hold me closer, I'll be okay. Till the sun goes up, yeah, for a little moment. Just hold me closer, I'll be okay. We watch the sun go down over the same old town. Stay, stay. No, you're gone in the morning, but I'll be okay if you stay. Stay.
Muted. There we go, unmuted. Hi, welcome to the 18th Annual Damn Short Film Festival. I am Lee Lanier, co-founder and director of Continuity, and we've reached another one of our great Q&A sessions this year that's virtual, and we're up to the animation programs, a personal favorite of mine. So that's Funny Friends Animation and Odd Trips. We have one filmmaker with us today, Randy Boyum, who animated and directed The Extinction of Up, which is in the Animation A, Funny Friends. Thanks for joining us, Randy.
Thank you very much for having me.
You're welcome. Now, before I forget, I'll mention that if you'd like to enter your website or social media handle into the comment section, feel free to do that at any point, and that way any fans can look you up. We can also ask you verbally at the end of the broadcast what that might be.
All right. Thank you.
The Extinction of Up, I'll describe it briefly for those who haven't seen it. It's the story of two boys who meet in the park to hang out. Only it's, I guess you'd say, the near future, and they do it all through texting on their phones. So I believe it's a silent film, right? There's no spoken dialogue.
Correct. Yes. The only sound is texting.
The text, yeah.
So, and background noise.
Yeah. Every year we get a few films that are silent. It's always interesting to see how that plays out. So you wind up hearing the dialogue through reading it on text on the screen. Mostly them and a couple people walk by, which is really interesting. So what was the inspiration for that idea for your film?
Oh, wow. Ever since smartphones came out and people started being glued to them, basically, for the last several years, I would just make jokes to friends when we were out in public and just watching everybody staring at their phones. And I said many times, you know, within a couple generations, people's necks will fuse looking down, and they'll no longer be able to tilt their heads up. And plus, their thumbs will become very long and pointy and probably lose the bones in the thumbs because, that's all they do is text. So one day I was out driving in South Denver in an area where there was just open fields, but it's still a major road, just undeveloped area. But there was a kid standing on the corner, probably 20, and staring at his phone, waiting for the light to change. And the light changed, and he didn't even look up, didn't even know. He just walked across the street and just never looked up from his phone and just kept walking. And it was a beautiful day in May. It was just, gorgeous outside. And it, it just kind of bugged me. I'm looking at this guy going, why don't you notice the world around you? And then I thought that little jokey thing I've been saying for years might make an interesting little film. And that's kind of where it came from.
All right. Very good. Yeah, you definitely see that quite a bit. We all do it too. Even if we know we shouldn't, we look at our phones, addicted to it. We can't help it. It's almost like our external brain almost. Now, your film is stop motion, correct?
Yes.
For those who might not know a lot about animation, stop motions where you have the little miniature people and you bend them and take a frame and bend them again and take a frame. So in terms of different animations and the difficulty, for me personally, I'm also an animator, I consider stop motion one of the more difficult types. At least it seems amazing to me that people can pull it off. I think there may be a few others that seem even more painful, like sand animation, but stop motion I'm always very impressed by. So you've been a stop motion animator for a long time?
A little over 30 years. I've been dabbling in it now. I did it as a kid when I was like 12 in the 1970s, just for fun. And then in 1989, I got my hands on another camera and projector and just started fooling around with it. And then in 90, I believe, my mom called me one day in a panic, turned on the news, and there was a local clay animation company here in Denver. And I latched on them immediately and hung out over there for about 5 years, helping to put together a collection of short films. And then I started working as a video production manager for a corporate house, and I had access to high-end gear and started shooting video animation straight onto video, and which was a mind-blowing change because prior to that it was all in film. You just click and hope for the best, and you get your film developed and get back 3 weeks later to see what mistakes you made. But while shooting on video, I could see it immediately. And it's very highly improved my animation. And since then, in the mid aughts, I think frame grabbers kind of made their appearance on the world, and so now people can see immediately what they're shooting and the next move and all that. And stop motion animation has become ridiculously smooth. Most of it almost looks like computer animation because everybody can see what they're doing and change and correct things while they're working. But I've even got my two little characters right here. This is Mark and Luke, and you can kind of see.
So it's like 6 or 8 inches, yeah.
Yeah, if they're standing, they're about 8 inches tall. And at one point when I first made them, their heads were actually up, and I took a couple photos with their heads up, but they will never move from this position now, and they're just looking down, and that's the way they are. So
awesome. So has most of your stop motion work been just independent, or have you also have you been able to use it professionally, like for commercial work?
Yeah, I have in the last, let's see, all through the 90s, I was a production manager at this courthouse, and occasionally we would have a client that I could do the little animation for. But in 1999, I actually took a temporary 6-month gig at Will Vinton Studios out in Portland, Oregon. Fantastic. And he's the guy who invented the word claymation. He's the guy. And I worked at that studio for 6 months on a TV show they were making called Gary and Mike, which was stop motion. There wasn't a lot of clay involved. They cast puppets in foam, and the heads were like hard plastic, and you could replace the mouths with using a little bit of wax and stuff. But after I worked there for 6 months, when I got back to Denver, I started my own animation studio right here in my house. I got a spare room, and there's my studio. And over the last 20 years, since 2000, I've done probably 15 to 18 or so paid projects, that I had clients for. Some were short films, some were ads, a little bit of corporate work and such. But whenever I'm between paid productions, then I work on my own stuff, and that's what this film was.
Okay. Yeah, it's interesting that the distinction between stop motion and digital work has become a bit blurred. You'll see 3D animation that they create in the style of stop motion, like Puppetoons or something.
Right.
And then stop motion also has digital work added to it. For example, some of the feature work where they have the replaceable faces with the expressions, they'll digitally remove the seams or remove the rigging so they can jump up in the air, and then maybe a little green screen behind them and all that. So, but you're right, it's gotten so incredibly smooth, it just makes me want to cry sometimes. It's so beautiful. It's still astounding though, in
It-
the ability for a stop motion animator to plan ahead and figure out what should be happening with each limb and each digit of the finger, and just understand what to do. Now, do you have any traditional animation training, or have you start with stop motion? That's where you've stayed pretty much.
yeah, just I did not go to any
Yeah.
school or anything for it. When I was 12, I did several films where I rolled the ball around on the table. But aside from that, fooling around with it myself, and then discovering that animation company here in Denver, and I went over there, and actually that's where I learned how to make a really well made a wire armature for the inside of the characters, because the clay is too heavy to hold up itself. You have to have a skeleton inside called armature, and ball joint armatures are the most glorious and amazing things that they had at Will Vince Studios. And when you move a character, you move the hand and it stays exactly where you let go. But when you're working with a wire armature, you'll move a hand and it'll bounce back a little bit. So every time you move something anywhere, you got to move it a little farther than you want to go and let it relax into the position where you're posing. And so that takes a bit of, fooling around and training and working with it to learn how far you need to move stuff. But eventually you can make it work. And a wire armature is like $2 to $3, and a ball joint armature is $200 to $1,000. I mean, they're really expensive. They're finally two piece of machinery. So
Yeah.
I've
So
never really a budget to do ball joint armature.
yeah. So for the Extinction of Up, that was a wire armature. For the Extinction of Up, did you use a wire armature in your characters, or was it the ball joint?
Yes, I've only used wire armatures here at my studio. I've never had a ball joint.
They are glorious to look at. They're incredibly finely machined little like robot things, and you're right, they're incredibly precise. So I know the big productions
really
spend a lot of money on them. Yeah, and they have people just specialize in making those little armatures. So, as a filmmaker, maybe you can speak to film festivals. Have you had a number of your films on the film festival circuit in the past? Have you spent a lot of time there? And what do you think the importance is of film festivals?
Excuse me. Prior to this film, the last time I had a film at a festival was in 1996. A film I made called Fast Food. Yeah.
All right.
It was long ago, and actually, when I was working on this film, it finished in March of 2020, right? Like a week after lockdown, I got this thing finished. It was only then that I discovered this incredible website called Film Freeway, where you upload your film one time, and then with a couple clicks, you can enter as many film festivals you want. They have thousands of them listed there.
Yeah.
And prior to that, to enter a film festival, you had to, make a tape or make a DVD and then stuff.
Yeah.
And, I just never through the hassle of that. I've made, several films that probably could have been in festivals, but I just never,
you're breaking up.
never went to the hassle of submitting. And then once I finished this film and discovered, Film Freeway, I've entered, was it 125 film festivals I submitted this one to. I was selected for 32 festivals so far. I've only got about 25 left to hear from. And I think I'm wrapping it up now because this film's about 2 years old, and most festivals
Yeah.
want a piece, you know. And so there's a lot of them that say, "Oh, you can have made it whenever," but I'm just kind of over it with this particular film, and looking forward to doing it again with another film. So, but
Yeah.
festivals are really, you know, an incredible deal of fun. And the problem is the first time I was able to do it in the last 25 years or
Oh,
whatever.
good.
Wound up getting into all these film festivals, and then I sat right here in my office at home watching them because everything's been locked down. There hasn't been any live, you know, festivals. I've actually gone to, well, 2 of them now. I've got another one next Saturday here in Colorado. Excuse me. But beyond that, no, I got into a whole bunch of really great festivals, and I sat right here in this chair watching all of them, and that's
I know.
it.
I know. I hope we
so
can
much
get.
for network.
Yeah, I hope we can get back to the live events soon. Virtual is a great stopgap, but we're all looking forward to getting back. And
Yeah.
I'll comment on my own experience too. And I agree with you that I started making short films in the late 90s, and it was a pain. You had to submit VHS tapes, uh, which were bulky and expensive to ship out and sometimes difficult. And if you wanted to get into a festival, you had to have your print 35 millimeter 35 millimeter print half the time, which could be difficult to get to. Uh, Particularly like
Yeah.
early computer animation, like myself, I had to film it out. It's like expensive getting the prints all over the place and the shipping. And although it's a little bit easier to get into, wasn't quite as much competition, but still, like today, it's crazy number of films out there. But
Yeah.
yeah, the digital aspect has definitely opened up the world to a lot of people. It's very democratic, but I guess the only disadvantage is you have a huge number of people out there at the same time. And there are about 7,000 to 8,000 festivals out there. Um, but the fact you've gotten to 30 some already out of 120 is great because odds can be stacked against you. So yeah, good. It's a very nice film, and I have not
Thank
seen anything that commented quite on social media like that with a good sense of humor, but definitely some plausibility with that. Let's hope we not don't wind up all with like noodle fingers and
you. Yeah.
after our phones.
It was very odd when I was filming it. I actually saw 2 different news stories on TV that happened to be talking about doctors who had been seeing a lot of kids coming in with a horrible pain in the back of their
Mm,
neck, and they don't know
mhm.
why. Yeah,
Yeah,
that
no,
could
you're
be a real
absolutely right.
thing. Who knows?
I think the psychiatric or psychological society is determined that there's social media addiction. They've quantified it. It's actually a condition now, and there's increase in injuries from people like walking into lampposts and street
Yeah,
signs, and then
yeah,
car accidents with people not looking in the like you're talking about somebody walking across the street. It's
yeah.
ugh, yeah. Uh, hopefully we
Frightening
survive
and
that
creepy.
phase.
Yes, it is. I
Yeah,
personally, smartphone is a tool. I use
it
it for
is.
work, and I literally don't have any social media on my phone. When I
No.
do social media, I'll just, you know, I'll spend an hour or maybe 2
Mm.
at home on my desktop where I am now. And that's the only place I'll open Facebook or, well, and I don't even have Twitter or Instagram. I'm just like, one of them enough. I don't even, you know, mess with the other stuff. But
That's probably smart. Second you get on one, it's hard to put it down, definitely.
yeah, yeah. No, I
Uh,
carry a book with me wherever I go. And that's what I do. You know, if I need to kill a few minutes, I
that's
read a book.
that's
So
that's very quaint, but I agree with you. This thing called paper that you flip the pages and there's words on it. It's
it's this little
fantastic. No
papery
hyperlinks
blog
at all.
thing.
Yeah. Do you have any films planned for the near future?
Actually, since I finished this film, I haven't shot one frame of animation yet. I've
Okay.
for 40 years, I've always wanted to write a book. And so for the last year and a half, I'm writing a book. And I'm close to the
Oh,
end. I'm 85,000 words in, and the book's
wow.
about 100,000 words. So I'm approaching the end. And it's been a really incredible experience. I've been having so much fun doing it. And I have no idea if anybody will ever read it or see it beyond me. But once I finish that, I fully intend on getting back into you know, making something. The thing is, I haven't been hit with a really strong idea for the next film
Mm,
that I'd like to shoot, like this one. When I thought of
mm,
this, I like, okay, I got to jump on this right away, and I was up and running pretty quick. But I do have an older film I made 3 or 4 years ago called Blue Jays that I want to do a little bit of tweaking on, and then make the director's cut. Although the first one was the director's cut because I'm the director, but I'd like to just make a couple changes in it, and then go the film festival route again with that film as well. And that one is stop motion, but it's paper cutout silhouette is what it is. I set up a piece of glass standing straight up, and I put a piece of diffusion material on one side of it, the front side, and then on the back side where the camera was, I cut out black construction paper figures and animated them. And that was a nice change from clay, because I've been doing clay only for 30 whatever years.
Yeah.
And just being able to step away from clay for a little bit was really fun, and I enjoyed making that film. But as soon as I was done, I was like, okay, clay, I need to do more clay, so I will be getting back into doing clay film as soon as the huge idea hits me. So
Cool. We have a question from our audience. Keith, you want to put that through? I'll take a look. All right, here's the question coming up. Here we go. Stop motion animation is a very niche genre. Do you have any influences from other stop motion animators or any others you're watching that you would encourage viewers to check out?
well, I'm an old guy, so my original stop motion influence, of course, was Ray Harryhausen and all of the monster movies that he made, back in the 60s and 70s and 80s. And beyond that, I once went to a short film animation festival in a movie theater in 1989, that had this incredible short film all done in cartoony style clay called A Grand Day Out by Nick Park, who's now the big main guy at Aardman Animations, who does Wallace and Gromit and Shaun the Sheep and all of those. And so his work really was a big influence on me when I saw the scale that he was working in, and that was unusual for clay at that time. Primarily, we had Gumby and Davy in Life, to refer off of, and it was all very simple. But this guy showed you could build really cool entire worlds out of clay. So,
what impressed me by Nick Park is the fact that he can get so much emotion out of his clay without any dialogue. Like Gromit the dog, is that correct? Yeah, the dog is just like astounding range of emotions. You know exactly what the dog's thinking, and he doesn't even say anything. It's amazing.
Yeah, and it's the tiniest little moves too. I mean, you just barely raise an eyebrow, and you're like, that's great. What an awesome reaction to whatever's going on. So yeah, he's brilliant. He's very, very incredible, and so quite a bit of an influence on me. And now there's an awful lot of stop motion studios. And it was funny because the people, that I was in contact with back in the, whenever computer animation really started to get big, there was so many stop motion people going, well, that's the end of our, art form, nobody's ever going to do it anymore. But that's not true at all, with the advent of frame grabbers in particular, so that you can grab a frame and move on, but see your work now. That's been an amazing, amazing boost to stop motion animation. And so no, it's bigger than it ever has been and never was. And lots of people do it. And it's an amazing thing that you can just use your phone. I'm going to use my telephone to shoot some stop motion animation, and people do it. And so there's a lot of remarkable work out there.
Yeah, it's interesting. I knew a number of stop motion animators in San Francisco in the early 90s, and I felt like there was this dark period of like, oh no, the work's starting to disappear. But so it's really great to hear that it's kind of had a new renaissance. And obviously, you can see the big features that have been made recently that are just amazing. So yeah. So I think that's a good point to leave this off. Randy, if you want to just verbally tell us about a good place to go to see your work, like either a website or, I know you don't use social media that much, but where can they find you?
Yeah, I actually just posted it in the chat there, but my stuff can be seen on my YouTube channel, which is Randy Boyum Animations. And that's the same for my Facebook page, Random Poem Animations. And on the Facebook page, I posted a few clips, but all of those can be seen on YouTube. But I also have created clay animemes, which are behind the scenes photos of my clay characters with, just meme comments on them, like the characters are at work being a clay actor and they're complaining about whatever or making comments to each other about various things. And so there's, I don't know, 100 of those that I've put out there. And some of them are pretty darn funny. Some of them are, they can't all be gems.
That's a new thing I've not heard of is claymation memes. Although your next step, NFTs. So gotta get into that.
I keep hearing about them, and I'm still absolutely confused and baffled by those. But I kind of raise an eyebrow and wonder if I should really delve into that.
Couldn't hurt to try, right? All right, Randy, really appreciate you joining us, and we encourage you to check out this film and Animation A. And thanks again. And I want to make a few announcements here and talk about what's coming up.
Thank you, Lee.
You're welcome. So we have a few more Q&As coming up. Next one is in an hour. And I'll be doing that one also. And what is that one? Let me flip my pages here. Let's see, which day are we on here? Next one up is, Sci-Fi A and B. So it should be very interesting. Also want to remind you that you can vote for your favorite film, and you have until 2 p.m. on Sunday, which is tomorrow, to vote. And all our awards are audience driven. And we'll announce the winners in the live stream Sunday night. So we hope you'll join us again, and we'll see you soon. Bye.
Whenever I'm with you, I am alright. There's something about the way you make me feel inside. I'm counting down the days till we fly away, heading to the sun, only you and me.